Dr. Angela, I want to do calculus right now. Okay. But Derek, you're not good at addition and subtraction. So how do you think you're going to jump right into a pure keto diet the rest of your life? You're going to have very little chance of being successful for the long term. You're going to do it for the average for keto is 11 days.
Welcome to the Lifestyle MD podcast, a podcast dedicated to high-achieving women who are conquering their careers while striving for total wellness. I am Dr. Angela Andrews, and I am thrilled to be your guide on this journey. Hello, this is Dr. Angela. Welcome to the Lifestyle MD. I am excited to have a new guest with me today. He is Dr. Derek Alessi, also goes by Dr. Derek. He became interested in the field of fitness training at an early age when he was an obese teenager, which I find very hard to believe, but we'll talk a little bit more about that story. Determined to change his health, body, and ultimately his future, he began strength training and developed a system to modify his nutrition. He dropped over 80 pounds in 1 year, and later that year, same year, he entered his first and only bodybuilding contest. More about that later as well. Disenchanted by the way bodybuilding tends to minimize health and well-being in order to encourage raw size, he left the arena and dedicated his career to helping individuals achieve better health and wellness through a program, planned exercise, and practical nutrition. So you started this at a very young age. Your accolades are exhaustive. You are the author of a book, The Bermuda Triangle Diet. That was from October 2009. The Promise of Health and Fitness from 2002. You have a doctorate degree in health and physical education, a master's degree in nutrition. You have a National Strength and Conditioning Association trainer certification. You own and operate Dr. Derek Alessi Health and Fitness, a private practice and personal training facility for adults in East Amherst, New York. I mean, just goes on and on. What else should our listeners know about you? And thank you for joining me today.
Dr. Angela, thanks for having me on. No, it's my pleasure to be on. And thanks for all the kind words regarding the bio. So when people ask me, and I think many people, as you just kind of alluded to, think that I've always been in health and fitness, and I have been for over 30 years now. But originally, I started off just wanting to be a dentist. So to answer your question, I was going to be a dentist. I kind of found this field accidentally. As you mentioned, I was an obese teenager. In fact, that went into my late teens, early 20s, in which I had to take some exercise science classes as a prerequisite to then go into dental school. And I kind of fell in love with the exercise science component of it, not because I found the information fascinating, but because I could change myself. I started working out. I started lifting weights. I started exercising. I did have a genetic advantage because, when you're a young male, you could build muscle quickly and you could burn through a lot of calories, which of course doesn't last forever. But I took advantage of it then, changed my body. And because of it, I kind of fell in love with it because it was a personal transformation more than anything else, more than a career transformation. So I fell in love with it kind of through the back door, and I haven't stopped doing it ever since.
That's fantastic. And so much of your story really resonates with me. My passion for medicine, I came back to medicine, was an engineer, and then decided to leave that and return to my original passion, which is medicine. But along the way, I wasn't actually in the best of health. I saw a lot of my family members struggle in the past and even currently with health conditions, diabetes, obesity, hypertension. My father had his first heart attack at the age of 40. So when I decided to get my health together in my 20s, pre-medical school, it was, okay, look, I've got to do this for myself. If I can't do this for myself, how can I help anyone else? And it was about fixing myself first. And everything that I do, this podcast, my coaching in the past, being a doctor, it evolves from just a real passion for helping people, but also from personal experience and understanding how much it matters. So I hear that from you, and I appreciate that. That resonates with me. And I think it'll resonate with anyone listening to this because they know what the struggle is like. I'm going to hop back to what you said there. It was easier in your 20s because you were male and you had testosterone and muscle mass and youth in your favor. I tell my patients all the time, you can't lose weight like you used to. And then with my women patients in perimenopause, it's an even whole different ball game. So expand upon that. How do you primarily focus now on clients over the age of 40, right?
Right. Over 45. And Angela.
Over 45. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's exactly it. So how many times, Angela, yourself, me, you're in a consultation and somebody will say, but I feel like I'm eating better now than ever before, but I'm nowhere near my size, or I just look at a piece of cheesecake and gain 2 pounds. We're hearing that constantly, and I'm sure you are as well. Yes, every day that goes by, because we hit our genetic peak and we're in a state of atrophy, it's going to be a little bit more challenging. Now, look, that
And
doesn't,
that genetic peaks around 22, 25, depending on your gender, right?
yeah, a little earlier for women, a little later for men. That's the natural progression. And I'm stressing natural only because, well, of course, and you know what's coming here, we could change some of that by doing some of our exercise training, which is so important. But if we think it's just going to naturally get easier in our 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, it doesn't unless we physically do something.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. And I don't think I appreciated that as much until reaching that phase in my life now, being in my mid 40s. And I do feel like it's relatively easier for me to maintain my fitness now than my friends who are just trying to turn it around, right? I've been doing it for longer. I've got more base muscle. I've got a lot of muscle mass to start off with. So the amount of muscle mass I have to lose is greater. I mean, that makes a big difference. So what hope do you give to people who aren't there already, where they're just like, okay, look, I didn't do this for the last 20, 30 years. How do I fix it?
Yeah, no, I love it because what I tell my clients is it's the same as school. So the longer you're working with it, the more skill you develop and you become a better student. So if I really never did this before, I'm kind of like a bad student that just tries to cram for an exam. So maybe I have a midterm or a final coming up. And I think, I just want to look good for spring break. I just want to look good for the summer. I just have these New Year's resolutions. I don't have these good habits, but all of a sudden I cram for 2 weeks, 3 weeks, go to the gym every day, eat 100% keto, and I lose some weight, but then go back to my old habits again. I have a hard time keeping it up. So a lot of people will say, I just felt it was so hard to keep it up. It just wasn't sustainable. Yes, you're trying to do calculus in first grade. It's hard to do. You don't know addition and subtraction yet. So you have to get the steps down first to make sure that you're going to be able to sustain something at a higher level. So that's exactly what happens. Yes, the longer you do this, the easier it will become because of your base muscle and because of your habits.
Now, I've seen you reference how you work with people who may have tried other things before and started things and failed at it or didn't keep it up. What do you teach people differently to where they can make this a sustainable long-term habit? I think that's like in the fitness industry, that's like there's this open door, right? People cycle in and out, start over, quit, start over, quit. How do you stop that cycle?
So, Dr. Angela, I'm going to tell you a little secret. It used to really upset me at first. And that is people would come to see me and say, you know what, you're my last resort. And I would say all the time, I've written these books. I've been in business for 30 years. I've done all these television shows, and I'm your last resort. Couldn't I be maybe not your first resort, but how about second? Can I be your second resort? Why am I your last resort? And they'll list everything that you just mentioned. They have the home fitness equipment, the fitness memberships, health clubs, Fitbits, Pelotons. They've done tummy tucks. They've done bypass. They've done all these different things. And then eventually they'll come across into my office. And once again, my background in this whole thing is we need to make it very relatable, just like school. So first and foremost, I want to see what grade you're at. Just kind of like a teacher in school. You come to a teacher and you say, hey, I want to get better in school. I want my grade point average to go up. Any good teacher, of course, would start with, well, let's assess where you're starting from. Let's set some goals, and I'll show you what better grades look like if you do the right classwork, homework, and evaluations, which essentially is the pinnacle and principles of my program. The right exercise, the right nutrition, and accountability is classwork, homework, and evaluations to improve your grade point average and to make it repeatable. So it all becomes part of a behavioral change as well. And once you put all of that together, I want a person to say, hey, you know what? Today was a little bit easier than yesterday. And tomorrow is going to be even a little bit easier than today. And that it becomes very repeatable and exciting.
Do you focus on helping people get some wins in there so that they feel compelled to keep going forward? I feel like that's something that I found very useful for folks. They need to have a small victory in the beginning to know that what they're doing is working.
Yeah, of course. And as a lot of clients come in and they'll say, hey, or a lot of patients come in and they'll say, hey, I need to lose 50 pounds. I need to lose 80 pounds. I need to lose 100 pounds. And in their mind, it's not successful until they lose that 50, 80, 100 pounds, which really isn't true. In fact, the first win becomes when you make the decision that you're going to start improving yourself. The first win is when you wake up in the morning and you make your workout. The first win is when you don't have the high sugar, high carb meal and you maybe have more vegetables and protein. those are all small wins. And then, since I like to keep people on a monthly check-in basis for an appointment, so our evaluations with body composition are done on a monthly basis, I want to show them some change very early on, so they're not waiting for that big home run of, I lost 100 pounds to be successful.
Awesome. That's excellent. And I think that regularity of the check-in is really key because we tend to be way more accountable to someone else. But if we want to hold ourselves to it, we're just going to dismiss all, whatever. You mentioned the right exercise and the right nutrition. What is the right exercise and the right nutrition?
Yeah. So when it comes to exercise, I think we can define it in a couple different ways, but so often we hear things like, I can't exercise because I have a bad shoulder, I have a bad back, I have a bad knee, or some orthopedic issue. Or I can't exercise because I'm older, because I have never done it before, because I don't want to look foolish. Well, I am a fan of trying to regain that muscle tissue we just mentioned before that we lose with atrophy. So I usually like to start with some type of base strength training program, but it has to be designed based upon orthopedic conditions to make sure that we don't have any muscular imbalances. So that, in my mind, is already starting the right type of program to improve metabolism and joint stability. So that would be the right exercise. When it comes to the right nutrition, it's very similar, but the change is you're going to have to eat. There's no way around it. You're not going to go the rest of your life without food. You're going to have to eat. And my opinion is you could eat everything. Even the worst things you could possibly mention that would send your blood sugar through the moon, you could still eat. But we have to develop a frequency of that. Once we put together what that frequency is based upon your goals and your expertise, then we could come up with the right nutrition.
Oh, that's kind of like harkening back to the bodybuilding. So you and I both have a little bit of background in that. And when you are training, again, I couldn't agree with you more in your sentiment that it's not focusing on your health and well-being, but let's take some nuggets from that. Recognizing that in order to optimize muscle growth and to optimize your physical wellness and aspects of your physique, you're going to have to achieve a certain nutrient composition, right? And then, but even when you're doing that, depending on where you are in the stages of your training, you're going to allow a certain amount of, quote, cheat meals, right? And I use that kind of terminology even with my patients saying, hey, look, I'm not telling you need to get rid of all the good stuff indefinitely, but we need to learn how to enjoy those things at a frequency and a quantity and a rate that's not going to derail our goals, right? Now, with that, the hard part, I think, is getting people's taste, self-control, habits tuned to know what that looks like. Do you think that people have to completely go cold turkey for a period of time to be able to reset and have just a little bit and not a whole lot of, say, that chocolate cake they might want? Or can they still introduce small amounts of it throughout? How do you approach that?
I think they could certainly introduce some during the process. If somebody is really committed, though, and they say, I just want to be perfect, I'm not going to stop somebody if they have big intentions of trying to be perfect. However, I find most of the people that come to see me are not asking for that. They're asking for something to be more moderate in type of an approach. So the good news is, no, you don't have to be perfect. And even the worst possible things, ice cream, chips, chocolate, candy, cookies, all of those things that really have no nutritional value and they have no place in our diet, they still can be consumed if you follow some principles. So I'm a big fan nutritionally of trying to get insulin lower by keeping blood sugar as stable as possible. So with it, we have to be very careful of what those things would be that would really cause a blood sugar fluctuation, such as the things I just mentioned. Things high carbohydrate, high sugar can certainly cause that to happen. Once again, though, how often are we having it? Well, a person might be having it 1, 2, 3 times a day before they come to see us. Now, that's going to be way too much, and that's what caused that 50, 70, 90 pounds of fat gain in the first place. So 3 times a day is too much. So what is the frequency? Well, it would depend upon gender, muscle tissue, athletic performance, or how often you're going to train, and what your goals are. So based upon that, I find that most people kind of fall in a range of being able to have maybe 3-ish, possibly up to 5-ish cheat meals per week, and still can drop a healthy amount of body fat and get into some slight levels of ketosis in the process of doing so.
Oh, that's fantastic. And I think when people hear that, they might be having a sigh of relief right now. I think that's really powerful because a lot of people enter the diet cycle going to extremes. And one of the things I tell folks all the time is every diet works to a point if you stay on it, but you want to adopt a habit of eating, a lifestyle, a pattern of eating that you can sustain forever. And what you're describing sounds forever sustainable.
Yeah, that's exactly it. And I take the same approach. I kind of alluded to it earlier. Dr. Angela, I want to do calculus right now. Okay. But Derek, you're not good at addition and subtraction. So how do you think you're going to jump right into a pure keto diet the rest of your life? You're going to have very little chance of being successful for the long term. You're going to do it for the average for keto is 11 days. And people will ask me all the time, is keto this unsustainable bad diet? And the answer is, of course not. It's not unsustainable and terrible. In fact, we all ate keto. If you went back over the 2.7 million years of human evolution, that's what it was. I mean, you could fish or hunt, and that was about it. We all came from a place of keto, but it may have been so long since you have done anything close to it. You are asking to radically change everything that you've done your whole life. You're going to have a hard time keeping up with it because your skill level isn't good enough for it yet. Now, it doesn't mean that you can't make some changes right now and always strive to become better and better and better at it, cutting those cheat meals out more or less frequent every single week. That is something you can strive to do. I just wouldn't jump in there. And that's why I would want something to be a heck of a lot more consistent, right? So I'm going to go back to my dental analogy from before. If I have a bad checkup, it doesn't mean I have to brush and floss 9 times a day for the week before I see the doctor. It means I should just brush and floss consistently all the time. And then if that's working well, I could always do more.
That analogy was perfect. That consistency there, I think that really drives it home. You can't make up for a terrible diet or lack of exercise in the course of a day or a week. It's really kind of an accumulative effect. And in a society where people are looking for instantaneous results, they want to like do the big thing, get the big results. And when things are more drawn out and take more time, it feels painful. And like it's just not giving that immediate gratification. So when I find that to be one of the hardest tasks, what's taken me years to cultivate. And we're not just talking about knowing what to eat. You have to have a habit and routine of your grocery shopping, your food preparation, how you travel with your food, whether it's to work, on vacations, who you're eating with, all the things that you're doing, when you put your exercise time in, when you go to sleep. It's really an entire lifestyle, right? And when people are walking in the door to talk to you, I can imagine they can't even fathom what's coming their way down the road.
Yeah, no, you hit the nail on the head. Yeah, there's many different facets of nutrition. Teaching somebody what they should be eating is pretty quick. It doesn't take that long, but practicing it in all those different environments that you just mentioned, that becomes the skill. So when I tell people that food or diet is a skill, they look at me like I'm crazy. Well, what do you like? Like playing golf, like playing the piano, like going to school? Yeah, it's the same type of thing. It's a skill. Oh, but you don't understand, Dr. Angela. I've been eating my whole life. I agree. You have been incorrectly. Yeah. You've been practicing and getting better at eating poorly. The more you practice it, the better you get at it. So we're going to try to change what you're doing so you start practicing the right things, because that can be cumulative as well. And then lastly, and you just mentioned it, people are getting bombarded by media messages all the time, lose 30 pounds in 30 seconds like a Kardashian and all these different things. And you just have to shoot Ozempic and GLP-1s and all. They're getting bombarded with all of these messages and they're confused. They're not sure what to do. They've dabbled in many different things over time and they don't have a lot of confidence in themselves. So I think establishing that confidence is very critical to the individual. They have to start believing that they can get better at this. And the second they do believe in it, they will start getting better at it like any skill.
Yes. So you're helping them build that self-efficacy after countless trials and failures. They need a little bit of building up at that point, right? I want to ask you about sleep. This is something that you and I apparently are both very passionate about, rightfully so, because sleep is paramount. You broke down the sleep cycle. We'll get to that in a moment. In your own words, why is sleep so critical and what impact does it have on your client's ability to lose body fat and to achieve their health and fitness goals?
Yeah, and I should preface this whole thing by saying for 6 years, I slept with an EEG machine on my head.
6 years?
6 years. So headgear with all these wires attached to it. that would send different feedback back to a device to collect it overnight that would show what type of sleep wave I was in.
Wow.
So I'm a big time geek. I understand that I do not look cool in bed. I get that. But you can get a lot of information from it.
Yeah, I'm a little bit jealous. You're talking to a fellow geek here. I'm like, ooh, that's some cool information.
I tell people I'm too old to be cool, so it's all right. But when it comes to sleep, I think we've never gotten the message that sleep quality needs to be looked at and improved. Yes, we may have heard you should get 7 to 9 hours or some type of general recommendation every night. But the quality, when you really break it down, would astonish most people. And what I mean by that is spending 7 to 9 hours in bed doesn't mean that you have a high quality sleep. So sleep is in stages. You have light sleep, you have deep sleep, and you have REM sleep. Now, light sleep does do some things such as motor unit connections, but it doesn't restore. You need to get to deep sleep in order for that to happen. And then REM sleep is a level of deep sleep, which helps for memory consolidation. So deep sleep needs to be prioritized. Now, you will not be able to maintain and hold deep sleep if certain things happen, such as a poor diet. So many people don't realize if you consume high sugar foods, high carb foods, or any amount of alcohol each and every night, your deep sleep is going to drop tremendously.
Thank you. Yes.
And you're going to be a zombie the next morning, or over time, it's even worse because then you're chronically deprived of sleep, even though you're laying in bed long enough. So you have to be extremely aware of sleep quality. I would beg people to take a look at that.
Oh my gosh. That just makes me so happy to hear someone else say that out loud, right? Especially the quality of the food and the alcohol intake part and the impact on the quality of sleep. Speaking from a physician's perspective, people will take sleeping aids and request medications to get to sleep. And they think just because they're closing their eyes and they're dead to the world, that qualifies as sleep and that's sufficient. So as a clinician, one of my struggles is somewhat convincing people that that's not actually sleep. You're not actually solving the problem. You're not reaching all those stages of sleep, and you're definitely not getting to the REM sleep, which is why you still feel exhausted. So from your side of things, where you're coaching people and you're working with them from a nutrition and exercise physiology standpoint, how are you helping them improve that quality of sleep?
Well, I think they first and foremost have to be aware of everything that we just mentioned. Now, can you jumpstart the system? And the answer is yes. So one of the techniques to jumpstart the system is this, even before you change your diet at all, is when you do strength training, you start lifting weights, you start building your muscle tissue, your body will set itself in deeper sleep. So as we know, when you start doing your workouts, your muscle tissue breaks down, the tear, and then it tries to repair. During the repair, it's going to call for more growth hormone anyway. So it's not uncommon that a person who hasn't been exercising says, hey, I feel like I've only been doing this for 2 weeks and I'm already sleeping better. Yes. Break the muscle tissue down. The body's very smart. It puts you in deeper sleep to release more growth hormone to repair the muscle tissue. So that happens initially, and that will start jumpstarting it. Then when you make the dietary changes on top of it, wow, it could completely change the chart. So when you look, and in fact, I'll give you an example. If you were to look at 8 hours sleep, what I'm really looking for is at least 50% deep sleep, is 4 hours deep sleep. Now, for most humans, for most adults in the US, the answer is no. They're well under 30%, many under 20% total deep sleep to total ratio. You don't need to wear what I wear to bed. You can get that from a Fitbit, a Garmin, an Apple Watch if you wear it when you're sleeping. But we're looking for 50% or more. Now, once they start exercising, cutting out the sugars, getting rid of the alcohols, they're going to notice that start to creep up. Now they're going to maybe get close to 50%, some nights 55%, some nights 60%. So they're going to see that, and then they're going to eventually say, I feel as though I don't need as much sleep. Yes, because you're getting more deep sleep. So now, yes, you're repairing on 7 hours, you're repairing in 6.5. You're becoming much more efficient. You're not just, as you just mentioned, lying in bed.
Oh, okay. Look, this is mind blowing. I mean, you just dropped some real serious nuggets there. So first, strength training, which we both agree is super important for your physical well-being throughout life and without a doubt in later years. And you're going to jumpstart your ability to get sleep because your body is going to need to go into deep sleep to release that growth hormone for that muscle development because you're breaking down muscle while you're exercising. Awesome. And now we can become more efficient with our sleep because we're getting a higher relative percentage of deeper sleep if we're following these basic steps of good nutrition and regular exercise. Okay. So on a similar note, I tell my patients lately, I'd say you got a Fitbit, like I said, Fitbit, Garmin, Apple Watch, wear it tonight. I intentionally, about half an hour before bed, I put it on the charger. I charge it just before bedtime, and then I put it back on because I want to collect that data while I'm sleeping. And I'll ask my patients, do you sleep with your watch? No. I'm like, well, you should.
Yes. Yes.
Please sleep with your watch. Let's look at your data.
Yes.
So do you collect some of that data from your clients?
Yes. Yeah, I do. So depending upon the kind of sleep unit they have, and by the way, they now integrate it into many beds too. So those sleep number beds will do all of that as well.
What?
Yeah, they will. Yeah.
Oh.
Sometimes you could get a bed. I also have a bedside unit that uses sonar that measures my movement patterns as well. Once again, total geek, right?
Total. I love it.
Yeah. So there's a lot of different ways to gather the data. And I do have clients that send it to me, and we could see when they're eating well and training well and when they're not because of their sleep quality scores. I couldn't agree more. Everybody's so concerned about wearing the watch during the day because they think the total amount of steps they take in a day means something. It's meaningless. In fact,
agreed.
We'll break down 10,000 steps. Do you know the whole story of 10,000 steps?
I do, but why don't you go ahead and share some of it?
Yeah, it's hilarious. It has nothing to do with health and fitness at all. It had to do with 1960s Japan automotive industry, in which they were trying to get their workers more productive by putting these pedometers on them, so they took fewer steps. But the name of the company in Japan that invented it, when you translate it into English, was 10,000. So it became 10,000 steps, which once again has nothing to do with anything health and fitness wise. You could take 10,000 steps. In fact, I have currently a client who is a postal carrier in the city of Buffalo, and he takes over 44,000 steps a day. And so you think, oh my goodness, 44,000 steps, this has to be the fittest individual in the world. No, type 2 diabetic, obese, thyroid disorder, low muscle tone. All of the things that you would say, no, that's impossible, still happened because his diet was awful and his muscle tissue was neglected. So the 10,000 steps by itself doesn't mean anything. I guess we started this whole thing off with wear your smart device overnight and get that data because it's more impactful and meaningful than some of the things that you're going to get during the day.
I absolutely love that. And I'm going to continue where you were going there. That reminded me of a patient that I recently saw who, in a similar vein, has a very active job. And we had this conversation around exercise. And, I was kind of like doing my whole inventory, sleep, diet, exercise, just kind of, I collect all these different aspects of their well-being, sometime when I'm first getting to meet them. And he didn't really see the value or importance in exercising because he's on his feet all day. It's like, well, I'm not sedentary. Yes, good. You're not sedentary, but you're not building muscle. You're not exercising. You're not doing this piece. And this is like one of the few times I had a hard time selling someone on it. And maybe it's because we didn't have enough time for me to elaborate on the health benefits of building more muscle. And maybe it's because he's a male who still hasn't felt the impact of that muscle loss. A lot of my female patients get there much quicker. So how do you make the connection for people?
So as we know, sometimes it's difficult and challenging. It has to be a willingness on the other person's part. So
True.
If I start feeling that I'm not getting my point across or it's not being received, more than anything else, I like to turn it around and I'll say, well, what do you think the problem is then? Right.
Touché.
So what do you think it is? Is everything going perfect for you? Is everything going super? Is this awesome? Do you love where you are right now? If so, I guess we wouldn't really need to change a thing. But if you're looking to change and you're looking for those suggestions, well, maybe I could shed some light after doing this for 30 years in terms of what you might be looking to do. Right. So I like to kind of use the Socratic method in that situation, ask more questions and try to see if they can come to the answer without me telling them to help persuade themselves. Because people are very persuaded by themselves and not persuaded by others. So that would be.
Yes. Oh, spot on. I think I literally just had a similar conversation with medical students yesterday. They were asking me about how do I motivate people. And I said, I try to get them to motivate themselves. Like if they don't want to change anything, I'm not going to convince them. They have to want to change something or see value in it. It has to help them drive towards some goal that they have for themselves.
If that doesn't work, you can try to threaten them and instill fear.
I might have tried that from time to time with with certain lab values.
We all do. We all do.
Yeah. And that's actually one of the tools that I get to leverage, right? I can say, okay, look, I can see you've got these risk factors. This is pointing to this, and people respond to data. That's another lesson that I have, whether it's like glucose monitors, seeing what their sleep is like, or seeing what their insulin level is like, or seeing what certain markers are like, and then Googling it for themselves and seeing, oh, that's not good. Then it's okay. How do I fix that? Right. And then when you empower them to know that there's something they can actually do about it, it changes things. Can you tell me an example where things didn't go well for a patient, or where someone struggled, and how you kind of overcame that process with them?
Yeah, I think the key thing is if somebody's not doing well, once again, it's a lack of belief in themselves. I hate to sound like their first grade teacher, right? Because, we have our first grade teacher that always said, hey, look, I think I can, I think I can, I think I can. But I can't imagine a better place to start. So often during the course of a day, I get stuck in working with somebody's strategy. What is their nutritional strategy? What is their workout strategy? What is their sleep strategy? However, I don't want to neglect the fact that their mindset is going to be the mothership to this whole thing. If they don't believe that they can do this, if they don't believe in themselves, if they don't believe they're worth it, some people would love the idea of reducing medications, of having less aches and pains, of looking better, of living longer. But if they don't believe deep down inside and overcome the fact that they're worth it, that nobody is going to do this for them other than them, they're not trying to impress anybody else other than improving themselves, they need to get to that stage. Now, not being a psychologist, and I will tell them I spend all day working as a psychologist, which I have no formal training in whatsoever, but like your first grade teacher, if there is something I could persuade you on, even more than workouts or nutrition, it's going to be you must believe in yourself in order to start improving. So that can be the biggest barrier. Once somebody does believe in themselves and they start taking on the strategies, look, I don't think there's going to be that much that's going to hold them back. I would expect them to get to their goal, but getting them to start to believe in themselves, that is the real challenge.
Yes, that's absolutely true. Kind of establishing that belief up front and helping people get there. So you are in Buffalo, right? Have you been there for all of your professional career up until this point in New York?
Yeah, no, I'm born and raised right here in Buffalo, New York. So I'm in East Amherst, which is just a subdivision outside of Buffalo. And you do know this, that Buffalo is widely considered the fitness capital of the world.
Stop.
Says no one, by the way. Nobody has ever said that.
Oh, stop it.
Nobody.
Got me. You got
nobody
me.
Says that.
So you've got your work cut out for you, in other words.
So this is in Venice, California, by the way. This is a Muscle Beach, right? So
yes.
In Western New York, the one thing, Western New York is a very tight-knit community. It is a city of good neighbors. It really is. The Buffalonians do look out for themselves, but they are not widely considered the most athletic, most exercising, most ambitious, most health conscious, any of those things. Buffalo is known for its food, and there's a lot of it. It's the birthplace of chicken wings. Pizza is on every corner. So it's not a health and fitness haven. However, inside of that, of course, there are a lot of people that want to improve and their health and fitness are important to them. So yes, I had a little fun with it, but at the same time, look, for 30 years, I've been working with some really good folks that do want to improve, that have worked extremely hard at it and have had some wonderful success.
So you've got a tremendous amount of success. You have a team of people working with you. Just kind of like tell me a little bit about the team and what your business is like out there and kind of how people can find you if they're interested in learning more about you.
Yeah, in fact, I have 2 businesses and 2 teams that run simultaneously. So I have 2 buildings that are on the same property. They're sitting across from each other. In one building is the Dr. Derek Health and Fitness, where we do all of the physical fitness training, personal training, semi-private training, nutritional counseling, and evaluations. And then I have another team who is my supplement company, my sports fitness nutritional supplement company called Strength Genesis, where we provide all of the best supplementation food items we can to help people achieve their goals with the highest quality of food found anywhere. So we kind of work in tandem. I wear my Dr. Derek hat early in the day. I wear my Strength Genesis hat later in the day and kind of go back and forth between 2 different teams.
I know how that goes. And speaking of the Strength Genesis, early on in our conversations, you introduced me to macadamia nut oil. I want to spend a little bit of time on that before we wrap up today, because This is mind blowing. I would be remiss not to share this with other people. So you informed me the health benefits from macadamia nut oil in comparison to olive oil. So it has more omega-3 relative to omega-6, right? It has monounsaturated fats than olive oil. It has a higher, what's that called? The point.
Low point. Yeah.
Yes, thank you. But more importantly, maybe not more importantly, it tastes amazing. It does taste like butter. I literally went out the next day and got some because I said, I've got to see for myself. So I can't have butter. I can't have any dairy. You have changed my life and it's healthy. So how did you come to learn about macadamia nut oil and what should our listeners know about it?
Well, boy, you said a lot of perfect things about it. You went through all the bullet points perfectly, and I'm thrilled that you love it. When people try Australian cold pressed macadamia nut oil, it will become their favorite oil. In fact, so we call it the world's greatest cooking oil. Yes, olive oil is a good oil. It's just not a great cooking oil because of the smoke point that you referred to. It breaks down to 350 degrees Fahrenheit, where this smoke point is much higher, 515 degrees up to 620 degrees Fahrenheit, which you will usually get above 350 degrees when you're cooking. So if you're making eggs, if you're making meat, if you're making vegetables, this will hold up a lot better. It'll keep all of the potency of the good omega-3 and omega-9 fatty acids without getting tarnished and ruined with that smoke point. So I was led to this about 10 years ago through the author Tim Ferriss in his book, The 4-Hour Body, when he was describing this thing called the new olive oil. So, of course, having both sides of my family from Italy, olive oil was something we used all the time. So I was very intrigued with something that was the new olive oil. And it turned out to be this Australian cold pressed macadamia nut oil. And he described everything that you just mentioned. It was high heat stable. It was even stronger than omega-3 in olive oil, but it tastes like butter. So I started bringing it in to my clinic just personally for me at first. And I loved it. So I started giving it to clients who loved it. We started asking, where can I get it? And so on and so forth. And I think I was telling you the story where the distributor for the U.S. about 7 years ago stopped carrying it. So I started importing it by the metric ton to get into the hands of people. And the reorder rate for this product is well over 95%. So that's how well it's received. It's super easy to cook with. It's ridiculously healthy. But lastly, the taste is phenomenal. If you've never had it before, it will soon be your new favorite oil.
I cannot disagree with you there. I absolutely love it. I don't think my husband's tried it yet. I keep telling him you need to try some of this oil. It's so good. I mean, granted, our bottle is a lot smaller than our olive oil bottle, and he just bought some new olive oil, so that might be part of it. But I mean, the only thing it doesn't match up to is that it doesn't have as many polyphenols, and it's not as researched as olive oil, right? So olive oil has a bigger market. You know, more people talk about it. There's more producers. There's more research, Mediterranean diet. So those are really the only two things. Other than that, there's a lot going for macadamia nut oil. So I'm definitely going to be introducing it to a lot of my patients and using it frequently in my cooking. So thank you for that, by the way.
Oh, you're welcome. So yes, in terms of cellular health, in terms of lowering triglycerides, lowering insulin sensitivity, all of those things. Now, also too, whenever you increase your intake of dietary fats satiate, which if you do have a sugar addiction, and many people do, one of the ways to start overcoming that is by increasing your dietary fats. And when you increase more dietary fats, you will crave less sugar. But we have to be careful of what fats they are. We don't want to be taking in more soybean oil or more Crisco or more shortening. We want to be taking in something that's going to be very beneficial. So you're going to see the health benefits on the laboratory side by using more macadamia nut oil, but you're going to feel it on the culinary side in terms of the taste and how easy it is to work with. So we're very excited about our cold-pressed Australian macadamia nut oil. I have been selling it for 7 years, and once again, it is so remarkably well received. It will be your favorite oil.
All right. I have really enjoyed our time. We just have so much synergy and approach, even though me coming as a physician, you coming as nutrition and exercise, it's nice to see the alignment, right? And I think there should be more of that. There's not enough education of students, not education of patients. A lot of people just don't get and have this foundational knowledge on what it takes to be healthy. It's made to be overly complicated. There's a whole industry that thrives on that, right? So I appreciate what you're doing, and I hope that more people will get this information in their hands. I'll be listing your website on our podcast description. I'll also list the books that you have out there. Any final thoughts that you want to leave our listeners with today?
it's never too late to start. So if you feel as though, well, I'm not a kid anymore, I don't feel comfortable exercising, it's not for me, it's only for young people, we all have to start somewhere. Yes, it would be ideal if you started as a youth or a teenager. That'd be great. It would be awesome. And some people do. However, if you're in your 40s, 50s, 60s, or even beyond that, there is still a time to improve your muscle tissue, your nutrition, and your lifestyle, as long as it's important to you. So take those necessary steps today, make the decision, and you would be shocked at how you can improve.
As long as it's important to you. Keywords there, you have to decide first, right?
Right.
And that's the first win. All right. Thanks again for joining me today. You have a great one.
Oh, thanks, Dr. Angela. You too.
Bye. This has been another episode of The Lifestyle MD. Special thank you to Lou Musa for the show theme music, created with Free Photography, and makeup by Janae for the cover photo. And if you enjoyed this podcast and you haven't already, please subscribe today and share with another woman doctor who may benefit. You may also follow me on Instagram at Angela Lifestyle MD. I am Dr. Angela. Thank you for joining me today.